Lindsey Gillum is an expert in helping women staying and feeling young. She has her own practice in Arkansas and she loves sports. As an athlete, sports, how much has it helped you in your life?
Sports, I glorify sports. I've always glorified sports. Now that I'm a mom raising children in sport, I see what it did for me. It gave me confidence. I met people that I would never have met, in my own small hometown. I learned respect. I had wonderful parents who really did a great job, instilling manners and tenets into me.
How much does exercise and fitness help mental health?
An incredible amount. The neurochemicals that are produced while we're exercising, you have your dopamine, serotonin, adrenaline. Those are our drive, our happiness, the drive to go and do hormones in the brain, neurotransmitters in the brain. When we don't have those, that's when we do see things, fatigue, depression, and we see that in athletes today. It's interesting, above all where those hormones produce. They're produced in our GI tract, they're produced in the gut. So that kind of can even circle back to our diet. But talking about how much being active helps our brain, that's where our chemicals, that's when at the time our chemicals are produced.
So especially after a long tough day, especially then we need to work out.
We need to work out. We do work out, I think, knowing the time. There is a circadian rhythm. Our body wants to fit a certain flow throughout the day. When our eyes open, the sun hits our eyes, it tells our brain to start doing things. I do recommend, if we can, fit that exercise on the front end of our day that follows our circadian rhythm. We're more likely to get it done statistically than after, we come home from our long day and fit it in at night. Now, some of us have to, and that's perfect to get it done there. Sometimes it can be disruptive to our natural hormone cycles. But overall, exercising at any point is so important to brain chemistry.
What can you tell me about routines?
I think our routine at our home is so ingrained that I don't even know it happens anymore. But I do know that when there is the expectation, of daylight to nightfall, and fitting what we need to fit in those hours, that we have to complete those tasks. And once we get into the routine of them, our brain doesn't have to struggle to think about them anymore. Especially as women, we have so many roles that we play, so many hats that we wear. And so I think it's very important to have those routines in place so we don't struggle to find, the gaps. We need to be ahead of it instead of behind. And I think, working in, anti-aging medicine, we do start developing routines because we are brought in, companies come and speak to me about, Lindsey, this is what you need to do. And so I actually, about 2 or 3 years ago, when I started noticing more aging on my skin, I started to take my game up a little bit in this area. And I started to learn more about high hyaluronic acids. That's a big, big deal. We inject them, we apply them, we apply them to our skin. And I really started to learn about the structural loss that we have after the young age of 30. We lose so much. And so that's the reason why I started to become so much strict and routined on my skincare. So we have so our bodies produce up until the age of 30-ish, some a little on either side. Our bodies produce high hyaluronic acid. They produce collagen, elastin. These are the things that keep our face, our skin, they keep it plump, they keep it youthful looking. And as we age, we don't have these compounds in our skin any longer, or they decrease. As we advance in age, or even if we can be, on the ball before and be preventative, and we start applying HAs to the surface of our skin, or as we know when we are in the cosmetic industry and we inject things, we know that when we inject them, the basis of high hyaluronic acids is hydration. High hyaluronic acids need water to do their job, which is to plump. You know, you can think of hyaluronic acids as, you know, a tiny little ball, and then we go and add water to them, and it makes them a big giant beach ball. So that's kind of a neat way to put it. So when we put it on our skin, that's what it's doing, is it's creating a plumpness to our skin.
So you put makeup during your work, and
yes.
you feel it helps your image, it builds your confidence.
It does. Yeah. You know, again, some of it's in the end product, but some of it's in the act itself. You know, it's the act of actually giving self-care. I have a routine. I put it on in the morning. A lot of it is preventative, you know, using the hyaluronic acids. You know, that's the first thing that I do. And then, you know, throughout the day, hopefully I won't have to reapply anything. I'd like not to. But then, you know, we do go into the workout. Oftentimes we don't have time to do our full, you know, like take everything off before we go and play a sport. So sometimes I'll end up looking, you know, well made up, and sometimes I'll end up not having anything on. And some of that has to do with our activity and what we can use.
Do you have any beauty hacks?
Hacks?
Or any beauty quick tips?
We can look in terms of prevention, because I think prevention is really where we should set put most of our eggs in that basket. But so prevention-wise, you know, protecting the face and the neck. We forget about the neck. So I think that's one, if we're thinking about things that we might not often think about, it might be both protecting our face and our neck. So sunscreen, huge hack. You know, we've got to protect our skin from free radicals. We do need 10 to 15 minutes a day of unexposed, or we need 10 to 15 minutes a day of unprotected sun exposure for vitamin D levels. However, you know, we need to protect ourselves from the excessive sun rays. You know, whether it's using a broad spectrum, that's the preferred you know, method of sunscreen. Using a good broad spectrum. It would be great to not have to apply it as often as we're having to, because, you know, I think that's something that we forget. Other beauty hacks for me, I pay attention to my eyes. I think that's where we look the most often. So that's, if we're going to apply one little part of our makeup, pay attention to the eyes.
You were an athlete at IMG Academies. You were aspiring to be a pro player.
Yes.
What motivated you to help a lot of these women to feel better, to look better, feel positive, feel good about yourself?
I have always been, you know, just I think going back to those days, I've always been a doer and a driver. I can't say that when I was 14 or 16, you know, I even was the best at self-care. But I did start finding the importance, you know, shortly into adulthood and even later teenager, where, you know, I knew that looking good really did help make a difference. And that was, you know, not just looking good, but it was the self-care. And I don't, makeup or not, you know, for me, it was, you know, the things that I applied to the face, that I was actually taking the act of self-care, because I was putting me, you know, and what I looked like or what I felt like up here. You know, and that's my body, I mean, my mind, and what I looked like.
Lindsey,
yes.
What is the key to recovery?
Recovery, multifocal. Sleep. I want to put that as a top key to recovery. And, you know, I think it doesn't matter how old or young you are. You know, when we're young, sleep might not be as important. But over time, you know, our hormones in our body want us to follow a certain circadian rhythm. So let's think about recovery. So you know, diet's an important part, but sleep, I mean, sleep might be the number one. I had a professor tell me a long time ago, when we sleep, and this is not when we lay down, but when we sleep, the blood is circulating so fast throughout the body. And the purpose of that blood, you know, flowing through that fast is it actually goes and it cleanses the ventricles in our brain. It cleanses our blood vessels, and it also cleanses all the acid that we build up during the day in our muscle. Sleep is the restore, repair time of the day. If we don't have it, you know, if we don't get that 7 to 9 hours, whatever that individual needs, we're not going to repair, restore for the next day. I think diet is the number 2, if not as important as sleep, but diet's also very important. I always use the words nutrient density with my patients when we're talking about what we need. You know, our body, when we sweat, our body is losing a mass amount of minerals, salt throughout the day. So, you know, when we go, we have to get that back in. Today, it's very hard to find good quality, nutrient-dense foods, and furthermore, to make the decisions to eat them, even if they're there.
What's the secret to staying young and looking good?
Oh, there's a lot. I think some of the things that we've mentioned, we have to stay hydrated, we have to sleep, we have to eat. As women, I mean, again, we play so many roles, and we are the first people to go back and say, I don't have time for that for myself, because we're always giving to others. And some people call it selfish. I mean, there is, you know, I think that's generational too. But I think it is so important to really take that time, you know, take an inventory. If it's your weight, if it's your health, if it's adding activity into our daily routine, we have to prioritize ourselves. It's the old analogy of the airplane, put the, you know, oxygen mask on ourselves, or we cannot help everybody else. So we have to prioritize ourselves.
Sunscreen.
Yes.
How important do you think it is, and how early should somebody start wearing it?
We should wear sunscreen starting, you know, at the age, you know, as when we start being overexposed to the sun. So that's at different times for many of us. So we should start wearing sunscreen very, very early. Now, we go to the age of where we're being overexposed to the sun, you know, beyond that 10 to 15 minutes a day. That's when really we have to start paying attention. Now look at you and I today. Where are we unexposed? Face, neck, and typically our arms. You and I think, are very good at we wear long sleeve protective SPF. So now we have to go to the places that we have to show, and we really, you know, need to use a great, clean product on our face. Studies have shown that mineral-based sunscreens, you know, are broad spectrum, which means they protect from all the different rays that we get from the sun. Over time, that's going to prevent, you know, on the vanity side from photo aging, but on the really big healthcare side, it's going to prevent our skin cancers. So let's go into a little bit of the science of what an HA actually is. So number one, it's a natural product. Our body produces it. So all that we're doing when we formulate these, you know, these products is that we're mimicking what our body naturally made. And we are applying them topically, and we are also, in some forms, we're injecting them in the form of dermal fillers. Most dermal fillers are HAs. There's a couple that are calciums, but most of these fillers are called high hyaluronic acid fillers. And when we either inject or apply, what that filler, what that application is doing is it's giving us what we need to attract water to the skin or inside the skin. And that's how these chemicals work, is they actually, you know, they start out just being tiny, you know, particles, and then water, we add water to them and they expand. So when we think about applying things to the skin, you know, it causes a plumpness of our skin. It causes the texture to be, you know, more improved and youthful looking. Same thing as when we're injecting that HA into the lip, we are attracting water to help it look better. So I don't care if you apply this product or inject the product and you are a dehydrated person, you are not going to get what you need from your product. So it's so important to maintain hydration. For a non-active person, that means 80 to 100 ounces a day of water. For someone who is active, we're thinking more of 1 to 2 gallons a day. So let's maximize our products. Let's maximize, you know, what we're spending on.